The neighborhood of Willow Creek looked like every American dream on a postcard. Manicured lawns rolling down to Lake Winnipegacy. White picket fences. Kids on bikes. Flags waving gently in the breeze. But step inside the monthly HOA meeting and you'd swear you'd entered a police state run by a woman who'd weaponized a ruler and a smile. Karen Miller was president of the board. Pastel cardigans. Perfect blonde bob. Always starting every sentence with "for the good of the community." Dear, while slapping $500 fines on anyone whose grass dared grow a millimeter past 3 inches. I'm Isaac Williams. 60 next birthday. 23 years hunting financial predators for the IRS Criminal Investigation Division before I retired to what I thought would be peace in my son's lake house. Orson Williams. 28. Purple Heart. 3 tours in Afghanistan. The boy who survived Taliban bombs only to be slowly bled dry by the woman he married. The same woman now ruling our little slice of hell with an iron fist wrapped in HOA bylaws. It started small, the way these things always do. Orson and Karen had bought the place outright after his last deployment. $890,000 waterfront. No mortgage. The dock where I taught him to cast a line when he was 10. Karen had just been elected HOA president on a platform of restoring property values. First came the notice about the American flag on the porch pole. 1 inch too tall. $250 fine. Then the grass. Orson's PTSD made mornings rough. Some days he couldn't get the mower out before the inspector's drone buzzed overhead. Another $500. Then the aesthetic violation for his truck parked 2 inches over the invisible line in the driveway. Another $750. Karen always delivered the notices herself, standing on our porch in her Sunday best, voice dripping honey. Orson, honey, we all love your service, but rules are rules. The community voted. It's for everyone's benefit. Orson would laugh it off at first, but the stack of certified letters grew. By month 6, the fines totaled $23,000. All past due, with interest compounding monthly because the HOA bylaws she herself rewrote allowed it. I watched from the guest room I'd moved into after his first breakdown. Orson called me at 3:17 a.m. One night, voice thick with whiskey and tears. Dad, she changed the online portal passwords again. My disability checks are routing somewhere else. She says it's for joint management, but the account's drained. I confront her, and she tells me I'm paranoid, that the PTSD is talking. She hides my meds when I ask questions, says I'll forget them. I should have driven the 4 hours right then. Instead, I told him to sleep it off. Talk in the morning. That was the last real conversation I ever had with my boy. March 15th, 2024. 11:47 p.m. The garage door closed. Engine running. Purple Heart still pinned to his dress uniform on the workbench. State Trooper's voice on the phone was flat. Mr. Williams, we need you to identify the body. The funeral was a performance. Karen in designer black. Crocodile tears. Accepting condolences like she hadn't spent 18 months turning my son's benefits into her personal slush fund. The lake house was still in Orson's name, legally hers as surviving spouse, but the HOA liens she'd quietly filed against it for unpaid assessments were already public record. 3 months later, she showed up on my kitchen table with a manila folder and that same sympathetic smile. Isaac, this place is too much for one older gentleman. The taxes alone are $16,000 a year now that the board raised the special assessment for the new community fountain. You understand. Sign the deed transfer, and I'll let you stay in the guest room. It's what Orson would have wanted. She slid the papers across like she was doing me a favor. I squinted at them like my eyes were going bad. This looks complicated. Karen, maybe I should have a lawyer look. Her laugh was light, rehearsed. Lawyers are expensive. Isaac, trust me, we're family. Family. The word tasted like battery acid. But 23 years of chasing predators taught me one thing. Let them think they're winning. So I played the broken, confused father. I signed the small stuff, authorization forms that didn't matter, while every conversation went straight into the encrypted recorder the size of a quarter that FBI agent Patricia Hayes had slipped me. Every threat, every lie, every time she mentioned Orson's reputation in that silky voice. Because hidden in my safe deposit box was the real suicide note Orson had mailed me 2 weeks before the end. 3 handwritten pages detailing every fine, every password change, every time Karen had accessed his VA records as his wife, and withheld his antidepressants while funneling his checks into her personal insurance brokerage accounts. She thought she was manipulating a grieving old man. She was actually confessing to a federal investigator who knew exactly how to build an airtight case. The fines kept coming even after Orson was gone. Karen rewrote the bylaws again. New rule: any visible signs of neglect, translation, any house whose owner couldn't mow on schedule, triggered automatic liens. She showed up twice a week with fresh paperwork. The board voted unanimously. Isaac, if you don't sign power of attorney over the property, the HOA will foreclose for the $47,000 in back assessments we had to impose. Her slip was tiny, but the recorder caught it. I kept my voice steady. Karen, some of those fines were for things Orson documented as harassment. She leaned in, eyes glittering. Harassment? Orson was troubled. Isaac, all that drinking, the paranoia about money disappearing. The neighbors remember how unstable he was at the end. Wouldn't it be a shame if everyone knew the truth about his mental state? The threat hung there like the noose she'd already tightened around my son. I smiled the weak smile she expected. I need time to think. By September, the mask was cracking. She arrived unannounced. Folder thicker, voice sharper. Isaac, my patience is wearing thin. Power of attorney today. You're 70, well, 59. Whatever. You can't maintain waterfront property. The deck paint is peeling. The railing's loose. Sign here, and I'll handle everything. You can stay in the guest room like family. I pretended to read slowly. What happens if I refuse? Karen's laugh was brittle now. Then Orson's legacy gets the truth it deserves. I have photos, videos of him at his worst, passed out, ranting about conspiracies, the HOA stealing from him. The VA might be interested to know their Purple Heart hero was just a delusional alcoholic making false accusations against his loving wife who only wanted the best for the community. She scrolled through her phone, showing me pictures she'd clearly staged over months. I kept my face blank, but inside the recorder was capturing every word that would bury her. October brought the first real crack in her armor. She was nervous about the memorial service she'd insisted on organizing at the Riverside Community Center. Isaac, maybe we keep it small, just immediate family. Some of Orson's military buddies might not understand how sick he was. Translation: she was terrified Staff Sergeant Mike Rodriguez and Corporal Danny Chun would show up and contradict her narrative. I nodded like the feeble old man she needed me to be. Of course, Karen, whatever you think is best for the community. Behind the scenes, I'd already flown the boys in. Behind the scenes, The Wire had 6 hours of her own voice admitting she controlled Orson's medication for his own good, admitting the fines were necessary cash flow for the neighborhood, admitting she'd use her insurance sales position to steer HOA-mandated policies straight into her commissions. Agent Hayes and Prosecutor Thomas Moore, Orson's high school best friend, were waiting for the final piece. November 15th, Orson's birthday, the day Karen had set as her deadline. The day she thought she'd watch me sign away my son's last legacy in front of witnesses. The community center was packed with folding chairs, flowers, and the faint smell of Karen's expensive catering. She stood at the podium in her best grieving widow black, voice trembling with practiced sorrow. Orson was a hero, but he came home damaged. The PTSD, the drinking, the paranoid episodes about money and rules. It was heartbreaking to watch him accuse the very community that tried to help him. Rodriguez stood up first, voice calm but steel-edged. "Ma'am, with respect, that doesn't sound like the Orson I served with." He was sharp. If he said money was missing, he had documentation. Shen rose beside him. 3 weeks before he died, he called me tracking every unauthorized withdrawal, every fine that went straight into accounts only Karen could access. The room shifted. Karen's smile froze. I stood, folder in hand, voice no longer weak. This isn't just a memorial. It's time the community knew the truth. I walked to the podium while Karen backed away like I was contagious. My son didn't die from PTSD. He died from 18 months of systematic financial and emotional abuse disguised as HOA enforcement. Gasps rippled. I laid out the bank records, $47,000 in unauthorized withdrawals Karen had signed for. Pharmacy logs showing she picked up his antidepressants monthly and never dispensed them. Then I hit play on the recorder. Karen's own voice filled the hall. Sign the papers. Isaac, or Orson's reputation gets destroyed publicly. I make 6 figures in insurance. Why would I need to steal from a disabled veteran? The room went dead silent. Agent Hayes moved to block the exit. Prosecutor Moore's badge flashed. Karen Miller, you're under arrest for financial elder abuse, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud under federal statutes. The handcuffs clicked. 23 witnesses, neighbors who'd once feared her, veterans who'd trusted her, watched the woman who'd ruled Willow Creek with fines and fear get let out in cuffs while her own recorded words played on loop. The fallout was swift and sweet. FBI forensic accountants tore through her computer within hours. They found 6 other victims, elderly homeowners she'd targeted with special assessments that funneled straight into her personal accounts. Mountain View Insurance fired her the same day. Local news ran the mugshot under HOA president arrested for veteran's death. The trial was 6 days of her own voice condemning her. The jury deliberated 47 minutes. Guilty on all counts. 12 years federal prison. Full restitution of $230,000. But the real victory came later. Senator Thompson introduced the Orson-Williams HOA Veterans Protection Act, mandatory audits, whistleblower protections, limits on retroactive fines. I turned the lake house into the Orson-Williams Veterans Justice Center. Agent Hayes runs investigations. Moore offers free legal clinics. We've already saved 63 families, recovered $670,000, and 0 veteran suicides among our clients. Karen wrote me from prison, 17 pages of predatory techniques she documented in her cell, begging to help prevent the next Orson. I accepted the pages, but nothing else. Justice isn't redemption, it's prevention. Every morning, I walk the dock where I once taught my son to fish, now a place where other veterans' families learn to fight back. The HOA sign at the entrance still says community first, but now the first rule is simple. Don't mess with a quiet dad who knows how to record every lie. Because in Willow Creek, the predator finally learned what happens when you target the wrong family. The weeks after the funeral blurred into a haze of HOA notices and Karen's daily check-ins. She'd arrive at the lake house like she owned the walkway, clipboard in hand, pastel nails tapping the pages. Isaac, the board is concerned about the guest room curtains, non-compliant color. That'll be another $300. And the dock railing still needs pressure washing per code 4.7. You understand. It's for safety. Safety. The same word she'd used when she fined Orson for leaving his purple heart case visible on the mantel. Tacky military memorabilia lowers property values. I nodded, played the part of the doddering retiree, even offered her coffee while the recorder in my jacket pocket hummed. Every visit added another layer to the case. She never suspected the old man squinting at documents was the same agent who once built RICO cases against mortgage fraud rings. By July, the pressure ramped up. She brought power of attorney papers disguised as community trust documents. Just sign so I can manage the assessments for you. The HOA lien is already at $52,000. Interest is compounding. Orson would hate to see the house he loved foreclosed because his father couldn't keep up. Her voice was soft, concerned, the same tone she'd used on Orson when she changed the bank passwords for joint security. I asked innocently, "What if I contest the liens?" Some of those fines seemed personal. Karen's eyes flashed for half a second before the smile returned. "Contest? Isaac, the board is unanimous. And if it goes public, well, people might remember how Orson was always complaining about money disappearing, accusing the HOA of theft. The neighbors have videos from the security cameras, him yelling at the inspector. It wouldn't look good for his legacy, would it?" The recorder caught the threat clear as day. I signed nothing important, but every signature she forced on dummy forms became evidence of coercion. August brought the first real slip. She arrived with a new special assessment, $20,000 for emergency fountain repairs that no one had voted on. The community needs this. Isaac, sign the property authorization and I'll waive the back fines. Stay in the guest room. I'll even handle the groceries. I poured her more coffee, voice trembling just enough. Karen, Orson left some paperwork. Bank statements with your signatures on withdrawals he never made. Her laugh was sharp. Paperwork? Orson was confused at the end. PTSD. Paranoia. Those statements prove nothing. But her hand shook when she set the cup down. The recorder captured the tremor in her voice when she added, "If you push this, I'll have the board declare you mentally unfit." Grief does strange things to older gentlemen. She left thinking she'd scared me. I uploaded the file to the secure cloud. Agent Hayes monitored and smiled for the first time since the funeral. September's confrontation was uglier. Karen stormed in without knocking, folder slamming on the table. "My patience is gone. Isaac, power of attorney today or the HOA forecloses next week. I have photos of Orson's episodes, drunk on the dock, ranting about fines. The VA will love that narrative." I kept my face slack. What if the accusations weren't paranoid? What if the money really disappeared into accounts only you controlled? Her mask slipped completely. Pure rage flashed. "You think anyone will believe a grieving old man over the HOA president who only wanted to help? Sign or watch Orson's memory burn on every neighborhood app." She stormed out. But the recorder had her admission. "I make 6 figures selling insurance. Why would I need to steal from a veteran?" That night, I met Agent Hayes at a diner 2 towns over. She listened to the latest clips and whistled low. We got pattern, intent, and financial gain. One more push, and we take her down at the memorial. October was the waiting game. Karen grew frantic, visiting daily with new deadlines. The memorial is November 15th, your son's birthday. After the service, you'll sign everything in front of witnesses. The community needs closure. Isaac, translation. She wanted an audience for my surrender. I agreed meekly, all while Rodriguez and Chun confirmed their flights. Behind the scenes, prosecutor Moore reviewed the suicide note Orson had hidden in his Purple Heart case, the one that listed every fine, every withheld pill, every password change. "This reads like textbook elder financial abuse," Moore said. "Add the wire recordings, and we've got her on federal wire fraud and conspiracy." I kept playing the broken father, letting Karen believe victory was days away. Each night, I walked the dock, talking to the water where my son once laughed, promising him the woman who broke him would pay. The stage was set. Karen had no idea the memorial she'd planned as her coronation would become her courtroom. November 14th, the eve of the memorial, Karen made her final move. She showed up at dusk carrying a bottle of wine and the thickest folder yet. "Isaac, Let's settle this like family before tomorrow's service. Sign the deed, transfer tonight, and I'll make sure the board drops every lien. Orson's reputation stays intact. No social media posts about his drinking. No stories about how he accused the HOA of theft. I poured 2 glasses, voice quavering. Karen, some of those accusations had proof. Bank records. Pharmacy logs. She sipped, eyes calculating. Proof? Orson was delusional. I have dozens of videos of him ranting about money stolen by the community. The neighbors will back me. Sign or watch his legacy die in front of everyone tomorrow. The recorder in my shirt pocket caught every syllable, including her casual admission. The special assessments went into accounts that helped the board. My insurance clients appreciate the referrals. That single line tied her personal profit to the HOA extortion. I nodded like the defeated man she wanted. You win. Karen. Tomorrow after the service. She left glowing, convinced the trap was set for me. Instead, I spent the night with Agent Hayes and more finalizing the arrest warrant. The community center was already wired with extra microphones, federal authorization, courtesy of my old credentials. Rodriguez texted at midnight. We're here, ready to honor our brother the right way. I slept 4 hours, woke to the sound of Karen's catering trucks pulling in. She'd spared no expense, white roses, engraved programs calling Orson a troubled hero who found peace. The irony burned. The service started at 2 p.m. Under perfect autumn sun. Karen took the podium first, voice trembling with fake grief. Orson served his country bravely, but came home broken. The PTSD, the paranoia about finances, the accusations against the very HOA trying to help. It was the illness, not the man. Rodriguez stood immediately, uniform crisp. Ma'am, the Orson I knew documented everything. If he said money was missing, he had proof. Shin joined him. He called me tracking every fine, every withdrawal only his wife could authorize. Whispers spread through the crowd of neighbors who'd once feared Karen's clipboard. Dr. Sarah Wilson, Orson's psychiatrist, rose from the back. Medical records show prescription pickups by Karen Miller that never reached the patient. Karen's face drained of color. She tried to regain control. This is inappropriate. Please respect the memorial. I stood. The room hushed. Actually, this is my son's memorial, and it's time for the truth. I walked forward while Karen backed toward the side door. Orson didn't die from PTSD. He died from 18 months of financial abuse disguised as HOA enforcement, fines, liens, withheld medication, stolen benefits, all orchestrated by the woman standing at that podium. I laid the bank statements on the nearest table, $47,000 in withdrawals bearing Karen's signature. Gasps rippled. I have pharmacy records proving she picked up his antidepressants and never dispensed them. Karen's voice cracked. He was delusional. I pressed play on the recorder. Her own words filled the hall. Sign or Orson's reputation gets destroyed. I would never hide medication. Then my voice. What if the accusations were true? Her laugh. True? I make 6 figures. Why would I steal from a disabled veteran? The crowd was stone silent. Agent Hayes moved to block the exit. Badge visible. Moore stepped forward. Karen Miller, you're under arrest. The handcuffs clicked in front of 23 witnesses who had come for eulogies and stayed for justice. Karen's designer heels scraped the floor as she tried to pull away. You can't use those recordings. I didn't consent. Moore smiled thinly. Implied consent under federal law. Every time you kept talking. I held up the Purple Heart case. And this, Orson's real suicide note, details every manipulation. You didn't just steal money. You stole his will to live. The room stayed frozen as Agent Hayes read Karen her rights. Neighbors who'd once nodded along to her community first speeches now stared in open disgust. Rodriguez shook his head. We trusted you with our brother. Karen's mask was gone. Rage and fear twisted her face into something ugly. This is a witch hunt. He was mentally ill. I pressed play again, letting her October voice echo. The board needs the cash flow. My insurance clients appreciate the referrals. That line alone tied her to wire fraud across state lines. Moore announced the charges: financial elder abuse, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, each one landing like hammer blows. Karen's legs buckled. Hayes caught her arm. Outside, local news vans were already rolling up. Agent Hayes had tipped them quietly. Karen's mugshot would be on every channel by evening. But the real collapse happened behind the scenes. FBI teams hit her house and office with warrants within the hour. Forensic accountants found the pattern. 6 other elderly homeowners she'd targeted with identical special assessments, siphoning $230,000 total into accounts linked to her insurance brokerage. Mountain View Insurance issued a termination statement before sunset. The neighborhood app exploded with screenshots of past fines, people realizing they'd been bled the same way. The trial was brutal and brief. Karen's attorney tried the grieving widow making poor decisions defense. It lasted until the prosecution played 8 hours of recordings, her threats, her admissions, her laughter at Orson's paranoia. The jury heard her say the community voted, while bank records proved the money never touched HOA accounts. They saw pharmacy logs versus her claim, I would never hide medication. Orson's suicide note was read aloud in open court. His recorded voice from 2 weeks before death played on speakers. She tells me I'm crazy, hides my pills, says no one will believe a veteran. The jury deliberated 47 minutes. Guilty on every count. Sentencing came December 15th. Judge Harrison looked at Karen in her orange jumpsuit. No more pastel cardigans. No more power suits. Your crimes turned an HOA into a predatory enterprise targeting veterans. 12 years federal prison. Full restitution. I stood to address her one last time. Karen, you didn't just steal money. You stole my son's future. But you made one mistake. You underestimated a father who spent 23 years putting people like you in cages. She whispered, I'm sorry, as marshals led her away. I knew she was only sorry she got caught. 6 months later, the ripple effects were still spreading. Senator Thompson's Orson-Williams HOA Veterans Protection Act passed unanimously. Mandatory financial audits for all HOAs. Whistleblower protections. Caps on retroactive fines. Mountain View Insurance paid $4.2 million in settlements and implemented elder abuse training. 3 other insurance companies follow voluntarily. The Willow Creek HOA board was dissolved. New bylaws written by residents who'd once feared Karen now protected homeowners instead of bleeding them. I turned the lake house into the Orson-Williams Veterans Justice Center. The dock where I taught my son to fish now hosts free legal clinics. Agent Hayes took early retirement to run investigations. Moore opened a pro bono clinic. We've handled 87 cases, recovered $1.4 million, sent 12 predators to prison, 0 veteran suicides among our clients. The first case was a Marine whose brother was siphoning disability checks. We used the same wire technique, same methodical documentation. Restitution came in 6 weeks. Karen wrote from prison, 17 pages detailing every predatory trick she'd used. I accepted the document for training manuals, but nothing else. I can't undo what I did, she wrote. But maybe I could stop the next one. Sitting in her cell, gave her time to think about the lives she destroyed. I folded the pages into the center's library. Justice isn't forgiveness, it's prevention. Every morning, I walk the dock. Phone buzzing with updates. Agent Hayes texts, your method cited in 3 new federal cases this week. 3 more predators caught. 3 more families saved. The neighborhood sign still reads community first, but now the community actually means it. Neighbors wave instead of hiding from inspectors. Flags fly without fear of fines. Kids ride bikes past the fountain that never got built with stolen money. Today, I meet Maria Santos, whose daughter is draining her veteran husband's benefits. I hand her the same recorder that brought Karen down. Document everything. Evidence wins. She takes it with shaking hands. She says she'll have me declared incompetent. I slide Karen's prison confession across the table. Page 4. Threat of institutionalization. Same playbook. Maria's eyes widen with recognition. We'll fight the same way. Patience. Documentation. Federal law. Later I sit on the dock watching autumn leaves float on the lake. My phone buzzes again. Another family helped. Another predator indicted. I talk to the water where Orson once laughed. 67 families protected this year. Son, 12 more in cages. Your legacy is growing. Sometimes I swear I hear his voice on the breeze. Good job. Dad, keep fighting. That's exactly what I intend to do. If you're watching because financial abuse or HOA tyranny has touched your family, remember 3 things. You're not crazy. The manipulation is real. Document everything. Evidence wins. You're not alone. There are people trained to fight back. Predators count on silence. We count on justice. And justice, as Karen Miller learned the hard way, always wins in the end.